My name is James, and I identify kind of all ways. Queer is like a really great term because I think it's pretty all-encompassing, but it also has like a very significant weight to it.
I'm Ronnie, I'm 22, and in terms of self-identifying, I usually prefer non-binary femme or trans femme.
I'm Kay. I identify as non-binary. I guess mostly agender. It's either that or gender fluid.
I'm Faye. I identify as a non-binary trans feminine person.
I'm Gino Blackwood. I consider myself gender fluid. I use they, them pronouns.
And I go by they, them pronouns.
And I like female pronouns, she, her, but they, them is also good for me too.
My pronouns is anything you want to call me because I feel like they change daily and it's really not fair to ask people to change it daily.
You identify with all pronouns?
Yeah!
What do you do and what are you passionate about?
I do a number of different things. Right now I'm working at a call center. In my spare time I hang out with lots of queer, kinky, sex-positive people. I play a bunch of different instruments and I dance around a bunch too.
I am a tattoo artist. I am passionate about being salty about industrial design because I hate that entire industry. It's full of hipsters who think they know better than other people. I'm really into all things about art. Mostly I'm passionate about shitting on bad artists. I want to be the Gordon Ramsay of the design world.
Yes.
I just want to have really good designers come up to me and show me a piece of crap and I'm just like, this sucks and this is why it sucks.
I'm a violinist, both performing, and I'm a teacher.
I was a cook for a while and also an artist on the side, but I've been kind of taking some time off to work on art recently, which has been pretty good.
Well, I'm an artist. I make arts. I kind of usually approach work that I make, like if it's starting from me, through, it always tends to be very personal, but I also like to make it ambiguous so that there's enough room for other people to insert themselves into it. And also that way it's less boring because it's like instead of just being matter of fact, like it's like kind of creating, you know, your own self-mythology, especially, you know, if you come from a marginalized identity where you know, you're not really allowed into that. It's kind of like, you know, how it is. It's like, it's weird. I think that like sometimes we forget, maybe like in our zeal for social status and like equality and all that, we kind of maybe overlook the fact that like a queer existence is kind of innately subversive. And I think that playing into that is of interest to me right now. And sort of that it's kind of about saying, you know, fuck you to all of that and like I'm just gonna, you know, be what it is and you know, that's allowed because it's happening.
In terms of being out, yes and no. There's a community of people who I really like, who I am very much out with, and I encourage them to use the pronouns that I prefer. There's some people in my life that I'm just not really, I mean, it's not that I'm not comfortable, it's just that it's a lot of effort and I'm still kind of getting comfortable with it myself. So at some point I hope to be able to really stand up for myself and say this is what I like and this is what makes me most comfortable. But that point is not quite yet. And at work I'm not out at all. I dress very similarly to this at work, and I wear femme stuff and I don't hide anything like that. But in terms of actually explaining it to people, I just kind of let them wonder because it's not worth my time at this point.
AuNg has always been a funny term to me because I felt like if I ever, you know, lived in a closet, it would be a pretty shoddily made closet. like it would be a closet where all the walls were made of glass. Because like, I wasn't fooling, you know, anyone.
I'm not out to my parents because they're paying for stuff that they'll stop paying for if I come out. I'm out to most of my friends and acquaintances.
I am out, and I think it just sort of happened. I realized that I didn't fit into any one category. Then as time went on, I started embracing being more femme. Yeah, it just went further and further, and then it felt good.
I'm out now. I came out in the summertime, and I've kind of always known that I've been non-binary, but I didn't really have words for it when I was a kid, so I would do like a lot of cross-dressing. I didn't even present as female until I hit puberty, actually. So there was like a lot of like weird gender confusion in my life when I was a kid. But the older I got, and the more that information became available about certain things, I could like wrap my head around it and try to understand who I was and how I fit in or how I didn't fit in.
Just sort of like my, entire life, people always made it, not necessarily their mission, but it almost seemed like everyone made it their cause to make sure that I knew that, I didn't have a place, or that like it was their purpose to sort of like make me sure that I should be uncomfortable. I would always have to sort of like reassure, what was on my birth certificate.
I think the first time that I realized that I might like wearing more femme stuff was it was a very silly experience. I was in the bathroom when I was like 12 or 13 or something, and for some reason I decided to tie my shirt up into a crop top like thing, and I really liked how that looked. And then I instantly undid it because I was worried about it at that point. It wasn't because I'd been raised in a household where I felt like that was a problem. I think it was more just I had ideas of masculinity and what would be expected of me when I was older, and that kind of startled me.
Well, I never really felt, female or male. I just kind of like adhere to the gender norm.
And even if I gave that answer, that would never be enough. Whereas like now, fast forward, 20 years, if I decide, okay, fine, then fine, whatever's on my birth certificate is wrong. Then all those same people would be like, no, because biology and genetics, and there are only two, there's only two. And it's like, but you're the same people, like the same people that, love biology.
I feel like earlier last year is when it finally hit me. I feel really happy now. I feel a lot happier recognizing it and living like that.
Until I went to university, where all my friends were basically theater kids. And they were very open about sexuality, gender expression, and we did a few plays where I was actually casted as male. And I thought, that was like amazing. That was great. This feels normal.
Yeah.
And so that's basically how it happened.
And then when I moved to Toronto in 2013, I started dating this lovely person who, I don't even know how it happened the first time. I remember all I knew was at some point I made some sort of comment about how it would be cool to wear this or dress this certain way. And she was just like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And I was suddenly stunned because no one had ever actively encouraged me into that sort of thing. And then they just really encouraged me more and more with it, and I became more comfortable. All during that time I was hanging out with communities where I felt really encouraged to just like try makeup and wear things and do things that made me happy and made me feel more, happier and more femme, as it turned out. Ever since then, it's just been a sort of constant process of trying new things.
So it's so funny because it was like I was always, I was never enough for one thing and it was always too much for the other. So that's kind of another reason why I adopted this kind of like fuck you mentality, because it's like, okay, fine. So if it's like, if I'm not allowed, then I'll just be here and I'll just do that. And then I don't care because, I don't want to be in your club anyways. I'll start my own and it'll be sad and ugly and thank you, Now, at least in more kind of, my peer circles and things like that, I'm fine just sort of, stating my truth. When it comes to like family and stuff like that, I'm not necessarily going to start a conversation. I kind of just, as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm just kind of more comfortable reaching for expressing myself in ways that I want to. But of course, then there is a little bit of curation because it's not like I'm, going around home like sporting cat liner and lipstick. I don't need to have that conversation that day. But I'm still, I'll still wear like a high-waisted pink mom jean, which my mom might side eye. But, whatever, librarian chic is the day that it is.
What has your experience being like out been?
My friends has always been very positive. They're like, yes, whatever pronouns you want, I will use it for you, even though like you think it's a hassle. The people in big cities are also super positive because most of my friends are, also non-binary or LGBTQ.
Very queer.
Yes. Like, it's like we attract each other and just like huddle together in a cold heteronormative world or whatever.
It has its ups and it has its downs. I started out as with like a select few people. I did not tell my parents, and they cornered me about it, and it hasn't gotten positively since. Like, there's marginal progress, but yeah, they stalked me through the internet and forced me to tell them everything, which was not comfortable. So of course, the general transphobia of living out in the world is out, but living within a community feels really good. Having a stronger identity, like, within myself has felt really awesome.
Since I've been out, it hasn't really been much of a change. I guess, like, people just have always known me as kind of like weird like that anyway. And in public, people mostly just assume that I'm a butch lesbian anyway. People call me she all the time, and I don't always correct them because it's not always prudent to do so. It annoys people, which is kind of sad, but when it's not prudent, I don't correct them. But it feels really good being around people who do respect my pronouns. And I think that's one of the most wonderful and freeing things about coming out recently, has just been people acknowledging it and not making a big deal about it and just kind of going on with their lives.
See, I have, from a physical standpoint in our society, I have a huge amount of privilege because I am a broad-shouldered, I'm a broad-shouldered person who, was assigned male at birth, and at some point in puberty my body decided to put on muscle mass, and I'm about 6'3", so, and I'm white for that matter too. So I have all these things that are kind of contributing to this privilege that I have, and it's weird how far that goes to prevent people from harassing me, because I don't get harassed, and it's ridiculous for one, because I think I will get these weird glances, usually from older men, which is a mixture of this kind of like disgust and anger and fear, where they can't stand the idea of me, or they hate looking at me, or I disturb something on a fundamental level for them. But because sometimes I'm wearing heels then too, and then I'm more like 6'5" to 7", I'm towering over them, and I'm large, and I'm white for that matter too, and so there's all these things that basically our society says, okay, this person is not to be messed with. It makes me feel kind of gross sometimes, because I know so many people who you take away one of those little bits of privilege and they get tons of harassment. I remember a trans assigned male at birth person who was, they were dressing more femme, and they were walking down the street and they were talking about all the harassment they get. And literally the only difference is that they have a smaller build than me. And it really, in some ways it surprised me, because obviously I've witnessed femme friends getting harassed, and I've witnessed all sorts of street harassment, and I know how prevalent it is, so I don't doubt that it's there. But in a way, it made me realize just how fucked up street harassment is, and what superficial things it's based on, because of how little I get harassed.
Do you guys have like outside sources that you learned from?
Since I sort of came to these realizations much later, certainly very much the same way as Juno, I had feelings of this, but never really had a vocabulary or an understanding as an adolescent. But as I became more in tune with like a solid queer community, that really bolstered my comfort.
I feel like the internet was really helpful, because whenever I have like a question, you can just consult a message board or check out Google or whatever. So that was good for getting in touch with other people. I didn't necessarily know anyone intimately, like in my personal life, who was feeling the same way that I was feeling, so I had to look elsewhere.
What do you want to tell people who don't understand your gender or who you are?
I mean, you don't need to. Like, you might think that you're attempting to expend your energy trying to understand something.
What I identify as, what I'm doing, has nothing to do with, it has no impact on your lives, the people who like oppose this kind of thing.
I mean,
I have many words. We just want to be treated like the way anyone else wants to be treated. It's not much to ask.
To not treat people differently on perceived gender. And that's a big task, and it's a huge thing to think about, because so many of our reactions to people based on their perceived gender, it's so ingrained in us in how we treat them.
It's like, why does it matter? Like, why does it so personally attack you in some way? You know, my existence, or, you know, my idea, my practice in just behaving in a way that I find is comfortable for me is somehow almost like this violent act, which it's like, okay, buddy, it's like, I don't have to talk to you and I didn't start, so why are you up in this?
It does no harm to you, it does no harm to anybody. It's like, it's a very simple thing just to make myself more comfortable with like who I am. And the fact that you don't allow someone else to be happy just makes you a very closed-minded, petty person.
we're not like gonna bite your head off, so.
Yeah. We're also not going to stay quiet either. If we say we want to be, like, our pronouns to be respected, it's so simple. It is so freaking simple to just change that.
Accept that we exist. I mean, what else do we need? Just accept that we exist and try to be cool about pronouns. If you mess up, it's okay. Just say sorry, move along, it's fine.
I think is really cool is just to imagine scenarios where you don't treat people differently based on what you perceive their gender to be. It's just this one big concept of, you know, sort of undoing ideas about gender.
It's like, is it really destroying something integral and close to you? No. I mean, if it is, then like, what exactly does that mean?
What do you think society should do to improve inclusivity?
Stop gendering washrooms. I mean, you don't even have to stop gendering washrooms. I think it's weird how in some places they only have individual washrooms and one's like a man one and one's a woman one. It's like they're individual stalls. Like, why do you have to even make that designation?
Anytime that I've been in like the men's washroom, I've been reminded of the fact that I don't necessarily like fit there. Anytime I've been in the women's washroom, I haven't really gotten any second glances. As a lot of trans people have pointed out, odds are you've probably shared the bathroom with a trans person many times and you've never known.
Everyone pees.
we've all we can all live harmoniously together. It's perfectly fine. It's really just accepting that we exist.
People are kind of alienated by how to them it can seem far out there. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is just that it's such a huge concept to struggle, and they sometimes feel like, okay, I have to grasp, they want me to grasp this now, well that's just ridiculous. Well, we don't want people to grasp it now, we just want people to slowly learn and, you know, and realize that there are little ways that they think that are harmful to others, so. Seek
out more diverse experiences. I know it can be hard if you're like stuck in a bubble of like a village of everyone who looks exactly like you and thinks exactly like you. This is the internet age. The entire world of experiences is open on like your smartphone. Even if you don't have a smartphone, there's the local library or whatever. Keep an open mind, seek out new experiences, accept that everyone has different lives. Everyone's so different that you can't put people into categories.
Learn how to listen. And I mean that for, you know, all sides, all, you know, corners of this hexagon that we call, you know, society. If we were more practiced in listening instead of just reiterating what has already been said over and over again to no one, then maybe people would finally start approaching these conversations from a place of wanting to learn or to impact others, as opposed to merely solidifying how they feel in some grand, extraneous way. It doesn't necessarily mean like agree with everything, but listen, find out where people are coming from. Maybe that'll change how you feel, maybe it won't, but it doesn't have to. You just have to, you have to see where they're coming from.